I took the train to the reunion today since we planned to drink. There, I ran into a guy who used to tease me a lot, whom we'll call Brandon. Man, you don't even have a car. Is that just a pipe dream for someone as poor as you? Well, even if you had one, a broke guy like you could only afford a clunker, so you couldn't show up here in one anyway. Brandon said this, bursting into loud laughter. I was really irritated by his attitude at that point. Judging someone without knowing anything about them is just not funny at all. After that, he kept following me, bragging about himself. Honestly, I was getting fed up with him. Then, a luxury limousine pulled into the venue's parking lot. It stopped in front of the entrance, and a beautiful woman got out. As soon as our eyes met, she greeted me respectfully. My name is Kevin Smith. I'm the middle child of 5 siblings. I have an older sister and brother. And I have a younger sister and brother. Mom always had a gentle smile. She never raised her voice, always responding or advising us, no matter our whims. Dad is a taxi driver. He used to work for a car maintenance company, but he had to retire due to a back injury. Dad, who loved cars and worked in that field, also had a commercial driving license. So he switched to his current job as a driver, taking advantage of that qualification. I was heavily influenced by my dad and developed a strong interest in cars. I always played with die-cast cars I got at children's events or toy cars my dad received from clients. I also learned about various types of cars by looking for car encyclopedias handed down from my brother. I would recall the knowledge and shapes I memorized and doodle them on flyers and school notebooks. My teacher, Mr. Thompson, used to scold me, saying, "Your notebook looks like a catalog. Stop doodling. It's a fond memory." My greatest joy was looking through car catalogs that Dad brought home. Thanks to his old job, he still had connections with many car dealers and would occasionally bring home catalogs of the cars they handled. Seeing the changing cover designs with each season and the new car models designed for each season always thrilled me. But my dad seemed a bit concerned about this. "Hey, Kevin, I feel bad that I can only give you catalogs. If you want comics or other toys, just let me know. I'll find a way to get them for you." "Really, I'm fine. I enjoy these a lot." "Is that so?" Our family wasn't wealthy by any standard. After all, we were a family of 7. Just the food and education expenses for a month were substantial. Clothes and school supplies were hand-me-downs from my older siblings. Even if I wanted a new toy, I could only get it on my birthday. There was a time when I really wanted a car game and begged my parents for it, but they looked troubled and said, "Sorry, we'd love to get it for you, but things are tight right now," with regret in their voices. Being at the age when my selfishness was at its peak, I became sullen for about 3 days when my request was denied. But as I grew older, I started to understand our family's situation. With that understanding, I began to grasp just a bit of the feelings my parents had when they had to refuse our whims. At that time, I acknowledged my parents' boundless kindness and gradually stopped being so demanding. The school I attended was a small one. With only 2 classes per grade, standout individuals were recognized by all students. Just like us, the Smith siblings. As a result, we were often teased. But my older siblings, being well-grounded individuals, managed to turn such negative comments into jokes or simply brushed them off skillfully. My younger brother was the biggest and strongest among us, so he countered such ridicule with his physical presence and assertiveness. Perhaps because of that, he was respected by those around us. He became what you might call the leader of the pack. And my youngest sister, being raised as the baby of the family, was the best at making requests. All 4 of us spoiled her endlessly. Because of this, she became a beloved figure among her peers, adored by everyone in her grade. Before I knew it, she had mastered the art of charm and had won over many allies. That's why no one dared to criticize us for being a family of 7 siblings. As for me, I ended up becoming the main target of teasing. I lacked strength and didn't have the courage to confront or change my surroundings. That's why the verbal arrows meant for my siblings ended up being directed at me. But in such times, my older siblings always protected me. It was a great joy for me back then. Yet, with every instance, I felt a pathetic sense of powerlessness for not being able to do anything on my own. There was a guy in my class named Brandon. He was born into a wealthy family and could get almost anything he wanted. His life was the complete opposite of mine. Brandon, knowing my love for cars, would always boast about the cars his parents owned. "You probably don't have this at your place, or you must be jealous, right?" He would say things like that, each remark hurting me. In addition, he brought high-quality toys like die-cast cars, model kits, and RC cars to school. Toys that were of a much higher quality than the cheap ones I owned, and he would boast about them to me and our classmates. He let others handle them freely, but he would never let me. Whenever I asked, he'd always say, "I don't want your poverty to rub off on me." However, it's against the rules to bring such items to school. He would show them off to everyone, avoiding the teacher's gaze. Then one day, he went too far. "Check this out," he boasted, holding up a limited edition model that even enthusiasts would envy, in front of everyone. A piece worth a considerable amount if sold on the market. He had brought such an item to school. Naturally, everyone was impressed, expressing their envy. They all handled the model, admiring it. But of course, he didn't let me touch it. After school, an incident occurred. The limited edition model was missing. Vanished without a trace. Brandon started causing a commotion in the classroom over it. "You did it, didn't you?" He was quick to suspect me, the first one he accused. Naturally, I denied it, but he wouldn't listen to a word I said. He just bombarded me with insults. Then, our teacher, Mr. Thompson, walked into the classroom. Mr. Thompson asked the calmest student, "What happened here?" After understanding the situation, Mr. Thompson came over to Brandon and me to hear both sides of the story. I was insisting on my innocence. Brandon, on the other hand, was unilaterally placing the blame on me. Mr. Thompson seemed to sense something and let out a deep sigh. Then he said, "I understand the situation, so let's all start looking for it. Something that valuable can't just disappear." And everyone remaining in the classroom began searching. For a while, nothing was found, but as the day was about to end, one of the boys came forward, looking guilty, in front of Mr. Thompson. He admitted, "I'm sorry, I hid it," and immediately went to apologize to Brandon as well. Brandon forgave him easily, as if it were a minor matter. Despite having been so harsh with me, I was filled with surprise and anger, but at that moment, I couldn't say anything. Mr. Thompson was still a young teacher, with a flexible mindset and a broad perspective, always treating us students fairly. He kindly said to me, "You got caught up in quite a mess." Those words were a strong stimulus for me, who had been continually blamed without the usual support of my older siblings. Tears streamed down my face as I told Mr. Thompson in broken words, "I was suspected because I'm poor. It can't be helped. But it becomes harder and harder when everyone looks at me like that. Not being believed was painful." Mr. Thompson gently patted my head and said softly, "It's better to speak up against unfairness. That courage will be the key to saving your heart. Besides, you're not alone. There are always people who believe in you, just like I believe in you, Kevin." Those words stayed with me deeply. Knowing there were people who believed in me, I felt reassured that I had someone to rely on, and from the next day, I was more open about expressing my thoughts. As days passed, I became more outgoing. Being honest and speaking my mind led to less teasing about being one of 7 siblings. However, Brandon's attitude remained unchanged. I continued to assert my dislikes without backing down. When he became too persistent, I made it a point to ignore him. Eventually, Brandon would walk away, clearly not amused. I learned that hiding my feelings wouldn't convey them to others. By actively speaking up, I could change from who I used to be. Feeling hopeful, I started engaging more with my classmates. Gradually, as I made various friends, Brandon's harassment stopped. 20 years have passed, and I've grown. Speaking up has become a part of who I am, enabling me to connect with many. Now, I'm engaged in a job that benefits from my network. Around that time, I got a call from my parents. There was a letter for me in the mailbox. I had my parents check it, and it was an invitation to a reunion. The main event was to celebrate the 20-year milestone and unearth the time capsule we buried in 5th grade. Initially, I thought nah, but when I heard that Mr. Thompson, who had always been kind to me, would also attend, I decided to participate immediately. However, my current workload made attending challenging. But I began to strategize, thinking I could make it work by rearranging some commitments. I now live far from my hometown, away from my family home. I thought getting to the venue would be difficult, but it was conveniently near my current residence. I can make it if I finish my work in the morning, I thought. With that last concern resolved, my plans were set. Choosing a venue for the after-party, which I had also pondered, was Zia. I promptly booked a spot online. The reunion took place in a spacious pub, reserved entirely for us. Since the invitation mentioned drinking, I opted for the train over driving. The highlight was the unveiling of the time capsule. The organizer had retrieved it from our elementary school and brought it to the reunion. We were to open it together on Signal. Upon arrival, old friends welcomed me warmly. Despite nearly 2 decades, I recognized everyone. Everyone had matured well, displaying a charm almost beyond recognition from our elementary days. I enjoyed catching up and reminiscing with them. At that moment, a notably lively group entered. In the midst of them was Brandon, eagerly talking about the luxury car he now owned. Brandon's car is stunning. I've never seen such a luxury vehicle before. Me too, me too. Typical Brandon, always so extravagant. His friends, essentially a fan club, were relentless in their adulation. Brandon himself was roaring with laughter, visibly basking in the attention. His entrance and style dominated the room, capturing everyone's gaze. Today, Brandon was decked out like a celebrity, his suit paired with ostentatious gold accessories and a watch that glittered with diamonds, unabashedly flaunting his wealth. His followers erupted in cheers, their enthusiasm unmistakable. "Really? Well, I'll take you all for a spin later," he announced, with the flamboyance of a showman. His followers erupted in cheers again, their excitement undiminished. Intrigued by the luxury car that had sparked such a buzz, I looked outside the venue. There, prominently displayed at the entrance, was a vivid red luxury sports car. Its presence was like a tomato on top of a sundae. Well, it was out of place, to say the least. Observing the car in disbelief, Brandon came over to me. And true to form, he immediately taunted me with poor. Granted, I hadn't dressed lavishly for the event. My watch was modest, and my suit was a standard charcoal gray. My shoes were the usual leather, making me resemble the typical office worker seen downtown. Hence, his jab seemed unwarranted, leaving me bemused. "You're a car enthusiast, right? How did you arrive today, huh?" "As usual, I took the train," I answered. At this, Brandon howled with laughter. "You don't own a car. is having one just an unattainable dream for someone as poor as you. Even if you did. A guy like you could only afford a beater, so showing up in one wouldn't be an option, right? Brandon jeered, his laughter booming. His arrogance was infuriating. Making assumptions without knowledge is one thing, but finding them amusing is entirely another. Engaging him would only escalate the situation. So, as before, I responded ambiguously and removed myself from the conversation. However, throughout the reunion, he followed me about, constantly boasting. Eventually, even I grew weary of his relentless self-promotion. Initially annoyed, my encounter with my former teacher provided a welcome distraction, and Brandon eventually drifted away. I savored the time catching up with Mr. Thompson, discussing the past and present. This exchange lifted my mood, making me anticipate the after-party. But then, the cacophony returned. One of Brandon's entourage seemed to be begging for a ride in his car. Assuming Brandon was reveling in the limelight, I glanced his way. Regrettably, our eyes met. "Oh, are you jealous too? You should just admit it if you are. But I wouldn't let someone like you touch it anyway. Don't want my precious car catching your poverty stink." While embracing his two sidekicks standing beside him with both arms, he said. Then he added, "But hey, if you grovel and lick my shoes, maybe I'll consider it. Miss this chance, and you'll never get a ride." To be honest, comments like that made me feel more contempt than anger. I pitied him and chuckled dismissively. Just then, "Hey, check that out. What is that? I've never seen such a car in real life." People near the entrance were whispering excitedly. Curious, I went to see what the fuss was about. There stood a limousine, even more out of place than Brandon's car. "Hey Brandon, man, you're incredible. Did you arrange this car too?" One of his followers looked at him with admiration. But Brandon himself seemed confused. "No, I don't know anything about this." Brandon muttered that under his breath. Then, the people around him suddenly looked puzzled and started looking around, wondering who it could be. Just then, a beautiful woman stepped out of the limousine. Upon spotting me, she smiled and nodded in greeting. "Mr. Smith, sorry to keep you waiting. I've arranged the car for the after-party as you instructed." "Ah, thanks," I replied. Our exchange made my classmates do a double take. Then a friend from the organizing committee came over and thanked me. "Kevin, thanks for arranging this. This was passable because of my current job. I'm the president of a luxury car rental company." My friends, who've kept in touch, knew this. This time, I was asked if I could plan an impactful after-party, so I decided to offer a limousine at a discounted rate. We planned to head to the after-party venue in the limousine after the main event. To ensure enjoyment during the ride, I stocked the limousine's fridge with various drinks and snacks. That should be impactful enough. The friend organizing the event explained the situation to everyone there. From different parts of the crowd, voices could be heard saying that Kevin is a president and must be some kind of joke. Can't be real. Like the organizer, a few friends were in the know about me, but it seemed most were not. Amid all the attention, Brandon approached me. You're the president of a rental car company. That's not true, right?" "It's no lie. With my line of work, I've seen so many luxury cars, I'm practically jaded. I think they're fine for an occasional spin, but for everyday use, a regular car suits me just fine." With a relaxed smile, I grinned at Brandon. At that, he seemed to flush with frustration, his face turning beet red. Not only the car, but everyone was also captivated by the woman who had stepped out of the limousine. Noticing the many gazes on her, she addressed the classmates, saying, "I am serving as Kevin's secretary." The crowd, initially stunned, quickly gathered around her. "You're so beautiful. You must be great at your job. How long have you been Kevin's secretary? Frankly, what do you think of him? Which university did you graduate from?" Faced with a barrage of questions, the secretary seemed a bit bewildered. So, I decided to set the record straight. Sorry to spoil the fun, but she's my sister, so back off, I said. What? Seriously? Everyone exclaimed in surprise. Yes, the woman serving as my secretary is indeed my sister. Known for her charm and for attracting the opposite sex throughout her school years, she's become somewhat of a legend. While she's still as willful as ever on the inside, her outward appearance is undeniably appealing. Thanks to that, when she handles client relations, she's guaranteed to be a great success. She's truly a valuable asset. By the way, Mr. Smith, about that sports car parked in front of the shop, my sister inquired. Yes, that's right, but it's not really worth mentioning, I whispered back. However, Brandon must have overheard because he shouted, "What's that? Say it clearly." So, with a sigh, I said loud enough for everyone to hear, "That car, it's a rental, right? It's one of the cars our company rents out, isn't it?" Brandon turned beet red and denied, "That's not true. I bought that car." However, the car had a sticker on the window, clearly indicating it was a rental. Anyone familiar would instantly recognize this. It seemed no one else at the venue was aware, so I had kept quiet about it. Upon realizing Brandon's car was a rental, his followers quickly changed their tune. In disbelief, they said, "So it was just borrowed. What a letdown, seriously," and walked away from him. Then, they began to prepare to leave the venue. They even began preparing to leave, getting into the after-party mood. Only my secretary, Brandon, and I were left in the now messy pub. I didn't know what to say to the disheartened Brandon. At that moment, he started to mutter various things. He was born an only child into a wealthy family, in stark contrast to me. However, his parents often sacrificed their time because of their wealth and were rarely home. He was given everything he wanted, but he always felt a sense of loneliness. In contrast, I had many siblings. My older brothers and sisters looked out for me, and I had adorable younger siblings. Brandon seemed to envy that. He too liked cars and often browsed thrift catalogs. He wanted to be friends over our shared interest in cars, but never said so because of his pride. He also wanted to apologize for the model incident from the past, but after that event, I stopped interacting with him, which made him anxious. The same went for today's luxury car. He knew it was out of place but wanted to grab the crowd's attention by driving it. I was listening seriously, but my sister wasn't. Upon hearing his confession, she immediately exclaimed, "That's creepy." I tried to calm her down, saying, "That's no way to talk about something someone said seriously," but my sister wouldn't stop. Teasing just because you want attention, maybe that's fine for kids, but for an adult to say that, it's nothing but creepy. It's like being a stalker. Brandon was visibly shocked by her relentless words. I thought to myself, she went too far, but even as the two of us felt down, my sister continued relentlessly. "If you wanted to make up, you should have just apologized sincerely instead of all this roundabout nonsense. Acting like this for years is just childish and uncool," she said. Brandon looked like he was about to cry. But what my sister said was right. Though, I do think she might have gone a bit too far. Sorry for my sister, but she's right. There's a limit to how much you can push your pride. I'm sorry, but I can't see us becoming friends, I told him. Hearing this, Brandon collapsed to his knees, even more devastated. I heard there's an after-party. Where's it at? Mr. Thompson, our former teacher, suddenly appeared amidst the tense atmosphere. You guys, arguing like this when you should be capable of mature thought, honestly, it's a bit disappointing as your teacher, he said. Mr. Thompson, how long have you been listening? I couldn't help but give a wry smile. Mr. Thompson said, laughing heartily, well, I didn't intend to at first. Then, He suddenly became quiet and looked at Brandon with a serious expression. Brandon, a dialogue is about respecting the other person's opinion while expressing your own. You're aware of what you've done up to this point, right? Regardless of your past, you can't erase those facts. So, the right to forgive or not lies with Kevin. Just because you apologize doesn't mean you'll be forgiven. It doesn't always work out so conveniently. Although Mr. Thompson's tone was as gentle as possible, his words were stern. He must have given the same guidance to him when he was in elementary school. Brandon began to cry suddenly, perhaps recalling that time. Next, Mr. Thompson looked at me. You've become able to express your feelings clearly. People can change, they can grow. I believe you understand that. You might feel unforgivable now, but I hope you can look at it in the long run. To me, both of you are dear former students, he said with a gentle smile. Mr. Thompson's words seemed to slowly seep into my heart. Thanks to his warm influence, I felt like I had more room in my heart. Thanks to that, I was able to think like this. Right now, I might not be able to forgive Brandon. The wounds he inflicted are deep. But if he tries to change and make efforts from now on, perhaps we could become good friends again. In the chilly, heavy, and damp atmosphere of the bar, even in such a situation, Mr. Thompson remained unflappable. Well, that's a fantastic limousine. Does it even have a refrigerator? Riding in such a car must be like a dream. By the way, how many people can it hold? It can hold up to 8 people. Well, that's amazing. While receiving various explanations from my sister, Mr. Thompson carefully observed the limousine. As I watched Mr. Thompson with amusement, Brandon spoke to me. I'm truly sorry for what I did in the past and just now. I'll never trouble you again. I won't be so presumptuous as to ask for forgiveness. But if we ever meet again, I hope you'll give us a chance to rebuild our relationship. Well, if we meet again. It's hard to suddenly engage in a friendly conversation with him. But watching someone trying to change makes you want to keep an eye on them. I couldn't help but let out a bittersweet smile, mixed with complex feelings. Just before we left the bar, a time capsule opening ceremony was held. At the organizer's cue, everyone counted down, and at the end, the seal was broken. Then, everyone took out the items with their names on them. Inside the time capsule with my name was a toy car I used to play with and a letter. Upon opening it, the letter was written in the awkward handwriting of a young boy. It began with, "To my adult self. To my adult self, are you doing well? Did you get a job related to cars? I'm currently trying to make friends with various people. I've gradually made more friends. Spending time with friends is fun. I've become able to express my feelings thanks to the words given by Mr. Thompson. Have you forgotten about this? Please make sure to say thank you. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely do not forget." I couldn't help but laugh after reading the last part. Mr. Thompson, who saw me, slowly walked over to me. Was there something funny written? Yes, well, please look at this. I showed Mr. Thompson the letter. Then, Mr. Thompson, with a delighted smile, said, "How nostalgic, you were shy, but you had your childlike moments like this." To Mr. Thompson, I said, "Mr. Thompson, thank you for everything back then. I am who I am today because of you." Hearing this, the others also began to express their gratitude. You helped us create an opportunity to reconcile with friends. I came to love math, which I used to struggle with, and now I'm working my dream job as a surveyor. Thanks to Mr. Thompson's encouragement, I was able to pursue my dreams. My success today is all thanks to you. Thank you. Each of them expressed their gratitude to Mr. Thompson in turn. Though we were all well into adulthood, at that moment, we seemed just like we were back in elementary school. The way we eagerly and happily expressed our feelings was just like when we were kids. I'm the one who should be thankful. Thank you, thank you. Mr. Thompson, looking pleased, repeated his words many times. Tears seemed to well up in his eyes. Seeing you all grown up into fine adults makes me truly happy. I'm so glad to be able to spend time together like this. Truly, this is a teacher's greatest reward." Mr. Thompson's words moved many of his former students to tears. Amidst this emotional atmosphere, applause broke out from somewhere, filling the bar. The reunion, 20 years in the making, ended with a booming applause. A lot of time has passed since the reunion ended. If there's one thing that has changed in my daily life since that day, it's that there's an additional photo in my room. In it, Brandon and I are both smiling. We're standing in front of cars we each bought with our own money, arms around each other's shoulders. Becoming friends with him, despite our past grievances, was also thanks to Mr. Thompson. Every morning when I see this photo, I'm reminded that people can change. And at the same time, I resolve to live my life without forgetting Mr. Thompson's words that come back to me repeatedly. Throw away the trash made by those less fortunate. Haha. A client at work, whom I'll refer to as Derek, expressed his dissatisfaction with something I had created. It was a wedding dress that I had struggled to make recently. Despite my efforts to comply with Derek's detailed requests and frequently changing demands, he tore the dress in front of me and trampled on it. For me, the creator, his actions were nothing but humiliating. Therefore, I decided to retaliate with the help of a classmate, Lisa. With the cooperation of my colleagues, I executed a plan and decided to add a final touch. Facing Derek, who had barged in, I delivered a decisive remark. "Derek, things won't go your way." I couldn't let him have his way any longer. My name is Tom. I am a man in my 40s who often suffers from back pain. Working at a company where desk jobs are prevalent, I'm often worried about getting insufficient exercise. I work for a wedding dress manufacturing company. Creating memories for people is the one thing that makes me proud of my otherwise ordinary life. Especially since many wear a wedding dress only once, I feel a strong sense of responsibility during my work. At the same time, the process of understanding clients' preferences and meticulously designing each detail according to their wishes is the most enjoyable part for me. The other day, a client was delighted with their design. That's good to hear. I hope they have a wonderful wedding. For me, the joyous moments in my work are when I see our clients' happy faces. My interest in wedding dresses dates back to when I was quite young. I believe it began when I was invited to the wedding of a neighbor's sister during my elementary school years. The colorful wedding dress she wore left a lasting impression on me, even as an adult. As a child, I was deeply impacted when I saw a colorful outfit that seemed to reflect the vibrant personality of an energetic older sister. Having always thought wedding dresses were white, I was surprised to see someone wearing a colorful dress without it being for a costume change. Curious, I asked her, "Why is your dress so colorful?" Perhaps because it's the most me outfit. After all, a wedding only happens once in a lifetime. The way she smiled so happily when she answered me was memorable. That experience inspired me to want to carefully craft wedding dresses that fit each client perfectly when I grew up. It's autumn. The office is getting colder, and we're adjusting the room temperature with heating devices. In the morning, not long after arriving at work, I was sharing old memories with a junior colleague. A young man working on promotional posters next to me said, "I see." He's a diligent young man in his 20s named James, who joined the company this spring. James always works hard and is a very good person. Eager to absorb knowledge and grow by observing us, he's rewarding to teach. That's why you listen carefully to the client's requests. Right. Without proper consultation, we can create a dress that fits the client. Making an image into a tangible dress for custom orders must be tough. The interested junior looked up with admiration and muttered, "That's impressive." Although he's currently focused on promotional work, I might let him help with wedding dress designs in the future. Exposing him to various tasks now will surely be beneficial when the time comes. Just as I finished reminiscing and was pondering the future, my cell phone in my chest pocket rang. Checking the screen, I saw the name of a client for whom I was responsible. To avoid disturbing James, I left the room and called a client outside the building. Then, the man on the other end shouted, "You're late in getting back to me." The man, Derek, a man in his 30s, let out a voice filled with anger. He is the second-generation president of a well-known company. I'm sorry. Not even a minute had passed since the call ended, but the person on the other end seemed quite impatient. As I offered my apologies, Derek snorted and continued. "I hope the dress is ready. It's made simple and elegant for my girlfriend, without any unnecessary decorations, right?" He wanted to know how far along my work was. However, this wasn't the first time he had called about this matter, so I couldn't help but think, not this again. Because Derek calls almost every day, it's been a bit overwhelming. Of course, the work is progressing well. I recalled Derek's request in my head. He wanted a dress for a demure woman, something not too flashy. So, I've been careful to design it without going overboard. Really? You're not slacking off, are you? Where exactly are you in the process? He asked in detail about what had been completed and how much progress had been made. While some might find such questions annoying, there's no choice but to respond since it's part of the job. Understandably, he's concerned since it's a once-in-a-lifetime event, but despite my careful responses, he seemed unsatisfied. Such answers only leave me worried. It's because you're unreliable that I, as a client, have to check in daily. Probably because you're only a high school graduate. You can't do your job properly. The conversation veered off into a critique of my educational background. I didn't know what to say and just listened quietly. Arguing back could lead to the cancellation of the order, which would harm the company, and I didn't want to prolong the call with unnecessary comments. Derek, who spent tens of minutes on the call, seemed satisfied afterward. He insulted me, suggesting I didn't go to college because I was dumb or poorly educated because I was poor. In the end, he said, "Don't think I'll accept anything subpar," and hung up. During the call, Derek mostly talked by himself, indicating he didn't need any responses from me. It's strange to think that he's the president of a company. How does someone who doesn't listen to others manage a company? Later, when I discussed this with James, he suggested, maybe it's a case where the others are competent. Maybe his parents are wealthy enough to cover any managerial blunders, or perhaps the people around him are capable. I see. Though he's a troublesome client for us, maybe he's well received by his inner circle, and others are working hard for him. The world is full of people who are not as they seem. Among my friends, there's even a woman who likes a bossy man, so maybe Derek is just another such person. Reflecting on this later, it turned out to be true, but at the time, I never imagined Derek could be so awful. A few days later, since it was my day off, I spent the morning relaxing and then decided to go to the department store to buy a model kit, my hobby. To do quality work, it's important to take proper breaks on days off. I was planning to buy a model kit to assemble that day but never expected to run into a familiar face. As I walked through the department store, a woman in her 40s approached me. "Tom, isn't it? Long time no see." The person who called out to me was Lisa. She was a classmate from high school and now runs a fairly large company. "Yeah, it's been a while. I think the last time we met was about 5 years ago. Despite living close by, we hardly see each other. I tend to laze around at home on my days off. I get too tired from work to want to go out, that's why." Though I hadn't seen Lisa for several years, we were able to converse smoothly once we started talking. As we walked together, we easily exchanged banter. I was filled with nostalgia, reminiscing about how we used to interact like this since our high school days. Back in our 20s, we used to go camping in the mountains or swimming in the sea. Must be the age, right? Tom, that's a bit rude, isn't it? Pointing out a woman's age like that. Our conversation was lively, so we decided to have lunch together since we were both there. I had only eaten a light breakfast, so I was thinking of having a hearty meal. I want to eat a hamburger. What about you, Tom? I'll have the hamburger too. It reminds me of the ones we served at the school festival. What a coincidence. I was thinking the same thing. I remembered when we were high school students, our class came together to run a hamburger stand at the school festival. Both Lisa and I were on cooking duty, tasting so much that we grew tired of it. Even as we said grace and began our meal, the stories from the past seemed endless. However, as the conversation progressed, I was stunned by what I heard next. What? You're getting married? Yes. My partner is a bit younger than me, quite handsome. He's the president of a growing company. Not the founder, but the second generation. So he's a bit unaccustomed to hardship. Well, congratulations. I sincerely offered my congratulations to my friend. I had wondered why someone as nice as her hadn't married yet, so I was glad to hear she had found someone suitable. It was heartwarming to know that her dream of getting married was coming true, as she had always wanted to. He proposed by saying, "Even if you just laze around at home, I want you to marry me. Don't you think he's a great guy? Is he some kind of saint?" It seemed her partner was utterly smitten with Lisa. The phrase "you don't have to do anything" feels like something you wouldn't say unless you really like someone. He's just a normal guy. His name is Derek Jamison. Sounds normal from that name, doesn't it? It is not an unusual name. Yet, the name sounded familiar. I had a client with the same name in my current job. While it's not uncommon for people to share names, such a coincidence seemed remarkable. No, I remember that my client Derek requested a modest and elegant dress. Considering Lisa, who is bright and straightforward, it doesn't seem to match, so they must be different people. We're planning a wedding in 3 months, so I'll send you an invitation. Thanks, I'll bring something nice. Thank you, but Lisa's smile quickly faded, showing a hint of concern. What's wrong? Something bothering you? It's a bit awkward to say, but he's very focused on educational background. What do you mean? Lisa says that Derek, or Derek Jamison, is tough on people who didn't finish middle or high school. He apparently makes it known that he doesn't want to associate with anyone who hasn't graduated from college. I frowned at the conversation taking a turn for the worse. Of course, I think it's a terrible way to think, but I wonder if it's okay to invite you. While I initially thought he was a good person, Derek seemed to have his issues. Why would Lisa marry someone like that? Seeing my reaction, she awkwardly continued. He knows it's an unfair prejudice and is trying to change, so as his partner, I believe I have to trust him. So, Derek was currently working to overcome his biases. That left me speechless. As just a classmate of Lisa's, my opinions wouldn't help but possibly intrude. I hoped their differing values wouldn't lead to a breakup. You're going to be with him from now on. Use your love as a whip or whatever it takes to help him improve. Of course, we're going to be a married couple, so we have to work together. We continued to reminisce about our high school days over lunch, then parted ways. A few days later, as I was diligently working at the office, my phone rang. The dress had moved into the sewing stage, but perhaps due to his concern for the progress, he started calling multiple times a day. I wished he would stop because it hindered my work, but he wouldn't listen. So, with a sigh, I looked at my phone, but this time it was a call from Lisa. She rarely calls me during work hours, so this is quite unusual, even though she typically contacts me on holidays or in the evening. Wondering if something had happened, I stepped out of the office to return her call as I headed outside. "Hello, is this Tom?" "What's up, Lisa? It's unusual for you to call at this time." "It's hard to say. but I thought I had to tell you." Lisa sounded downcast, different from when we last met. What she began with actually was a surprising fact for me. For starters, it became clear that her fiancé, Derek, and my client, Derek, were the same person, but that was the least of my concerns. Hearing the more shocking content left me speechless. "Is that true?" "Yes, so I'm sorry." "No, it's not your fault. It's all Derek's doing." Feeling sorry for my classmate who apologized in a low voice, I held my head in my hands, picturing Derek's face. "Let's think about what we should do next. I'll call you back after work." "Okay, sorry, Tom." Derek, like me, is a wedding dress designer and seems to be causing trouble for our company. I can't just leave him be. A wedding dress I had been working on recently was finally completed, and I had arranged for Derek, the client, to come in and check it. Derek, who came to the company, seemed irritated throughout, and Lisa, who came with him, felt uncomfortable. It was the first time she and I met at this company. Though it's a weekday, she must have taken the day off just for this. I showed Derek and Lisa the wedding dress we put on a mannequin, alongside James. It's a simple piece with fewer decorations, just as requested. I removed the cloth covering the dress and handed it to James. He is a junior colleague, invited for learning purposes. Since he has no part in what follows, I had him wait quietly in a corner of the room. "This is the wedding dress you requested." Turning back to Derek and his group, I began to explain about the finished wedding dress. I intended to thoroughly communicate the changes made during the design process, but I was cut off mid-sentence. "That's enough. I try my best to meet Derek's expectations. I have sent him the design forecasts and shown him photos of the dress in progress on several occasions. We've confirmed it many times. So, it should not have been a total surprise. If they were happy with it, everything would have been resolved smoothly, but that was not the case. What a terrible wedding dress. It's completely different from the image I conveyed. I can't let Lisa wear something like this." Derek started criticizing the wedding dress in front of him, saying the design was bad and the materials were poor. While Lisa's personality might not suit it, the current design was precisely what he asked for. "I tailored it according to your order, but it didn't meet your expectations." "Of course not. Such a plain dress will make our special day look poor. It doesn't suit Lisa's bright personality." His words, negating all previous requests, left me at a loss for how to react. I've lived long enough to see a lot, but this was my first time encountering someone so unreasonable. My mouth was agape, and so was my James's, who was present. He muttered under his breath from the corner of the room, "What's going on in that guy's head? Don't be too harsh, Derek. Someone worked hard on this." Lisa is kind to say that, but effort alone isn't enough. It's business. Without results, it's meaningless. Indeed, he was right, but I didn't want to hear that from him. Despite his angry demeanor, Derek seemed to have a soft spot for Lisa, hastily offering various consoling words. "What should we do, Tom? It's clear as day that we're not going to satisfy him with this situation. Considering something like this might happen, I recorded some of our conversations. Should I bring it? Well, what should we do?" Hearing our conversation, Derek, who had just finished comforting Lisa, turned towards us with a furrowed brow and spoke in a flustered manner. "This is what I ordered. I've paid for it, so I'll take it." "So, you're going to use this dress for the wedding?" Hearing this, Lisa asked with a puzzled face, not understanding what was meant. Derek, seeing Lisa's bewildered expression, shook his head and opened his mouth. "Of course not. I can't let you wear something so terrible. Besides," he stopped mid-sentence and continued with a disdainful look at us. "The man standing before us is a high school graduate. Who knows what problems might arise from something made by someone with such a low level of education? It can't be trusted." Just as I was wondering what he would do with the dress he had paid for, Derek grabbed the dress on the mannequin and tore it apart. Using scissors he had conveniently brought in his pocket. "Throw away this trash made by the less fortunate, haha," he said, looking at us and laughing mockingly. Additionally, he trampled on the fragments of the wedding dress on the floor as he left the room. Lisa, looking pale, was apologizing, but I couldn't process her words due to the shocking event. Fortunately, at least he didn't refuse to pay. It was a relief that the company didn't suffer, but my pride as a designer was shattered. However, Derek, who had inflicted damage on my spirit, seemed to have planned further harassment. That night, he apparently attempted to post bad reviews about my company online. Had Lisa not discovered and stopped it, who knows what would have happened. She stayed at Derek's place to monitor his actions, preventing the incident. An hour after work ended, she informed me through an email. I learned later that night, Lisa and Derek had a terrible argument. But fortunately, because Lisa threatened, "If you post bad things online, I won't marry you," we didn't suffer any damage. However, I wasn't just going to let things slide. To strengthen my resolve, I deliberately voiced my feelings. "Derek, things won't go your way." Fortunately, knowing Derek's plot in advance, I was already prepared for retaliation. If Derek hadn't taken dishonest actions today, those plans might have never come to light. Using the information from Lisa, I contacted various companies. These were small companies that produced threads and fabrics, which had been pressured or harassed by Derek's company. My plan was to persuade these companies to stop dealing with Derek and instead do business with our company. I didn't force them, but they all quickly agreed, indicating that their relations with Derek were already poor. From that day on, production of wedding dresses at Derek's company began to delay. According to Lisa, Derek became increasingly exhausted due to complaints from customers. Then, on the day before the wedding, a haggard-looking Derek stormed into our company. "You've been in touch with the companies we deal with lately. I heard about it. Stop harassing us now." "What are you talking about? I've only been trading with companies necessary for making dresses. That it happened to be your companies is just a coincidence. Don't lie so blatantly. I know what you're up to. If you're going to play it like that, we'll spread bad reviews about you." Derek, red-faced and spluttering with anger, raised his voice, "But would Lisa allow that? If you do that, won't your fiancé be angry? I won't be responsible if she calls off the engagement." "Lisa will understand me." I silently denied those words in my heart. Lisa is not the kind of person who affirms everything someone does. In my memories, she always pointed out mistakes, even if it was a close friend or someone superior. Sighing, I then noticed Lisa arriving afterward. "Lisa, why are you here? I expected something like this. As your fiancé, I can imagine your actions to some extent." She gave me a brief look of apology before turning towards Derek. "Derek, it's unacceptable to demean other companies for the sake of your own. What are you talking about? With that kind of naivety, you won't survive. I understand that society is tough, but that doesn't justify hurting others." Derek, turning pale, averted his gaze from Lisa and glared at me instead. "You've seduced Lisa. How dare you lay hands on another man's woman? He has nothing to do with this. This is my decision. As my fiancé, don't you understand that?" "No, that's..." Pressed by Lisa's assertiveness, Derek now turned white and began to sweat. "We can't be together anymore." Lisa calmed herself and seemed to realize that she was in the room where the wedding dress was shown. Her gaze fell to the floor scattered with pieces of the dress Derek had shredded. "Let's break up." Hearing this, Derek grabbed Lisa's shoulder, pleading with spittle flying. "Please don't. Think it over. The wedding is tomorrow. I love you." "Love? That's probably a lie. I've known it for a while." "What? You only targeted my company because it produces high-quality materials to grow your own. You never loved me. Lisa's company is known for producing quality thread. That must have been why Derek targeted her and got close. I overheard you talking to yourself when you were drunk." Hearing Lisa's sorrowful words, Derek collapsed on the spot. Everything was going well until now. This is a joke. Where did I go wrong? Instead of offering an apology, Derek proved to be more despicable than imagined. It's ridiculous that a company with a high school graduate has a better reputation than mine. I thought just a few bad reviews would drive customers my way. He clenched his teeth in frustration, his expression filled with regret. My plan to get a convenient woman while eliminating a rival, all gone to waste. Instead of admitting his guilt, Derek became defensive and even started berating Lisa. "Damn it. I should never have chosen a woman like you. I wanted a younger, more obedient wife, but you were the only one gullible enough, so I had no choice." Seeing Derek insult the woman who had been his fiancée until now with such an ugly expression was unbearable. I grabbed Derek by the collar, unable to let this go any further. "There are things you should and shouldn't say. Apologize to her." "Apologize? For what? You should be grateful I'm marrying an old maid. You should have just kept quiet." Unable to hold back, I was about to punch him. But before I could, Lisa slapped him across the face. "Lucky for you, you don't have to marry such a woman. Goodbye, and don't ever show your face to me again." Derek, with a swollen cheek, left our company muttering complaints. A few seconds later, a large splash was heard as a result of a small prank. I had asked James to place a bucket full of water in a position Derek was likely to kick over. If he had noticed and avoided it, James was supposed to dump another bucket of water from the floor above, but it didn't come to that. Left behind, Lisa, instead of showing shock, started making phone calls with a determined look. "Hello, regarding the contract we had, we've decided to discontinue our dealings. I'll explain the details later. Please relay my regards to Derek." It seemed she was calling her former fiancé's company. After finishing her calls, Lisa turned to me. Slapping her cheek to reset her mood, she said, "I've decided to cancel the contract with Derek's company. It was a major deal, so it should significantly impact them. It's a pity I won't see his frustrated face," she said. "You're tough," I said. "There's no point in moping around. That's not like me. So, how about celebrating my continued single status by bar hopping tonight?" I shrugged and happily accepted her invitation. That night, Lisa and I shared many stories over drinks at a bar. After her recent heartbreak, she gave me a relieved smile and said, "Thank you," which made me believe she was starting to recover. Afterward, Derek's company lost many of its clients. Especially since crossing Lisa seemed to have a significant impact. Losing a major business partner, Derek's company gradually downsized and eventually went bankrupt. After that incident, I didn't see Derek for a while, but years later, I caught a glimpse of him working at a small spinning mill. He looked emaciated, almost like a completely different person. Meanwhile, our company steadily improved its performance. Thanks to Lisa promoting us as a form of atonement for the trouble caused, orders for wedding dresses tripled. For a while, we struggled to keep up with the workload with our current staff, but we managed to overcome this by hiring more people. By a few years later, our company had grown to be well known locally. Lisa, who had carried a big trauma, eventually had her wedding ceremony without a hitch. It seemed she had moved on from Derek, and I was relieved. If ever she remembers him, I'll be there to support her. After all, I ended up standing beside her at the wedding venue as her partner. Lisa, wearing the custom-made wedding dress I created, was stunningly beautiful. She gave me a radiant smile, just like the one I remember a girl from the neighborhood having when I was young.
"Hey, come over here,"
let's sleep together. It had been 5 years since she had said something like that to me. I slowly laid down beside her. When I peered into her face, she gave me a broad smile. Wrapped in the warmth I hadn't felt in so long, I felt truly happy for a moment. I found myself thinking, I really want to be with her forever. That thought crossed my mind. But then again, the reason we ended up apart was my own fault. I think I should start by talking about that. It all began when I was 30. I was just an average office worker. I went to work diligently and did my job, but I was far from being on the fast track to promotion. But even someone unremarkable like me had a chance encounter. It was with Jessica. I met Jessica at work. She was a high flyer at a client company, and we started going out for meals, which led to us dating. Unlike me, Jessica was attentive, competent, and ambitious, clearly on the path to success. She was beautiful when she was immersed in her work. Even after we got married and had a child, Jessica continued to work. In fact, after giving birth, she got promoted to a manager position and became even more active in her job. But that didn't mean she neglected our home. She managed both household chores and parenting well. However, watching Jessica handle everything so perfectly became painful for me. Seeing her excel in both work and home, earning more than me, made me feel miserable. I knew it. I was just envious of Jessica. But I couldn't suppress the dark feelings inside me and turned to alcohol for escape. Perhaps it would have been better if I could honestly express my feelings and weaknesses to Jessica, but my youthful pride prevented me from doing so. Jessica, for her part, seemed perplexed and didn't know how to deal with me drinking heavily. The conversations between Jessica and me dwindled, and we drifted apart. When Jessica and I were 35 and our daughter Lily was 5, we divorced. Lily went with her mother. It was only natural. A man who took refuge in alcohol like me couldn't possibly take care of a child. After my wife and child left, the house felt bigger and quieter. With the divorce, Jessica accepted an overseas assignment she had previously refused and left for abroad immediately. Lily went with her, of course. It was only when I was left alone and became lonely that I first regretted neglecting my family for alcohol. As a minimal form of penance, I quit drinking. After that, with nothing but work left, I threw myself into it, but I didn't achieve much. I remained an unremarkable employee. Jessica promised to let me see Lily when she returned from abroad. All I could do was look forward to the day we would meet again. I wonder, will Jessica agree to see me? A man who fled to alcohol. She might not even want to see my face. Although I knew I should give up on Jessica since I was the one who ruined our family, I couldn't forget my feelings for her even after the divorce. 5 years after the divorce. Suddenly, I received a call from my daughter Lily. I had been sending child support payments, but we hadn't spoken or seen each other. It was the first time I'd heard her voice in 5 years. Lily, now 10, sounded older than the voice I remembered, which was only natural. On top of that, I was surprised when she said, "There's someone I want you to meet." We agreed to meet again, but it seems that Jessica won't be coming. I was surprised that the two of them had returned from abroad, and that Lily suddenly said there was someone she wanted me to meet. I was taken aback by all of it. However, the surprises didn't end there. When I went to the family restaurant where I was supposed to meet Lily, there was an unfamiliar man in his 30s sitting next to the grown-up Lily. That's when I realized. The person she wanted me to meet must be that man. Probably her new father figure. Which means Jessica's new partner. He seemed like a kind man with a good tan. Embarrassingly, I still have feelings for Jessica. There's no way I can talk to Jessica's new partner. Not knowing what to do, I just stood frozen at the entrance of the restaurant. However, Lily and the man noticed me. "Dad, over here." Lily waved her hand. She must have thought I was looking for them. The man sitting next to Lily nodded slightly at me. I was motionless. At that moment, I turned on my heel and ran away. I could hear Lily calling out, "Dad," in a panic behind me, but I didn't stop and just ran out of the restaurant. I know it's pathetic, but I just couldn't bring myself to meet Jessica's current partner. However, Jessica's new partner was incredibly fast. I was caught in no time. When Lily caught up, we moved to a nearby park, where Lily heaved a big sigh. "Sigh, Dad, you've got it all wrong. This man isn't my dad. He's someone Mom works with, and he's married with 5 kids, by the way." 5 kids. I was more shocked by the fact that he had 5 children than by the fact that he wasn't Jessica's partner. Their home must be really lively. "Nice to meet you. I'm Tom. We're farmers. Jessica has been a great help with our farm, lending us land and farm equipment. Sometimes I teach her about farming too." Today, when I said I wanted to meet my dad, he brought me all the way here. I was almost overwhelmed by the flood of information. How did Jessica get to know someone from a farming community? Then Lily revealed a surprising fact. Mom's helping out at the farm now. She quit her previous job. Tom added more details. Jessica had broken down from overwork during her overseas assignment and had returned to America 3 years ago. Tom was an acquaintance of Jessica's parents. He had helped Jessica look for a house in the countryside when she expressed a desire to leave the corporate and city life behind. He also helped by lending out land and farm equipment, and even helped her find work on his farm to earn an income. For Jessica and Lily, he was a benefactor. I had no idea about any of this. I would have helped if she had told me. Or maybe she didn't want to rely on me even when she was in trouble. As I was thinking this, Lily said firmly, "The person I wanted you to meet is my mom." Mom was talking on the phone with Grandma, and I overheard. Mom said she wants to apologize to Dad. Apologize to me? For what? I don't know, but she said she wants to apologize but doesn't know how to bring it up now. Mom's been down lately, and I think she's worried about things with you. Will you meet her? The divorce was my fault. There's no reason for Jessica to apologize to me. But this is actually perfect. I get to see Jessica again. I told Lily that I would visit Jessica and Lily's house soon. We set a date to meet and then parted ways. But my heart was racing. Ever since the divorce, my days have been filled with regret. Back then, drowned in alcohol, I hadn't even managed to apologize for causing the divorce. I resolved to properly apologize to her when we met. That's what I decided in my heart. The day I was to visit Jessica and Lily's house arrived quickly. In just under an hour, taking the express train and then a local train, the scenery outside transitioned from urban to serene countryside. I still couldn't believe that Jessica, once a dynamic career woman, was now assisting with farming in the countryside. When I reached the address I had been given, I saw a traditional house surrounded by fields. Lily had told me that Jessica would be away until the evening, so Lily was the only one to greet me. Now all that left was to wait for Jessica's return. Welcome to our home. There were, of course, no coffee shops or cafes to kill time. I waited with Lily, gazing at the vast fields, mountains, and prairies until Jessica arrived. Suddenly, Lily lay down on a patch of grass. "Hey, come over here, let's lie down together." It had been 5 years since Lily had said something like that to me. I slowly lay down next to her. She looked up at me and smiled broadly. Wrapped in the warmth of the sun, which I hadn't felt in so long, I was enveloped in a moment of happiness. I had never thought I'd spend a day like this with Lily again. Is today the only day like this? I couldn't help but wish for more days like this with Lily. That thought crossed my mind inevitably. As Lily and I relaxed, time seemed to fly by, and soon I heard a voice call, "Harry." I sat up and turned towards the voice, and there was Jessica, whom I hadn't seen in 5 years. She was in work clothes I had never seen her in before, with a makeup-free face and suntan skin. Though she used to dress more elaborately in the past, she looked healthier and more beautiful now. When Jessica arrived, Lily went inside. It seems she wanted to give us some time alone. "Why are you here?" Lily wanted to meet, so she came over. I left out the part about Jessica wanting to apologize and instead told her about Lily coming with Tom. "Is that so? She wanted to see her father after all, but were you surprised that we live in the countryside?" I was, honestly. I never imagined you living in the countryside or being involved in farming. At my words, Jessica showed her first smile of the day. "Me neither, but I got tired of the daily grind at the office. I just wanted to see some greenery." "I see, but it's amazing that you've taken up farming as a job." "Not really. I had zero knowledge at first, and it's only recently that I've been able to manage my own field. I still cover living expenses by helping Tom and other farmers." She must have found life overseas more challenging than I imagined if she's willing to go to such lengths to avoid returning to corporate life. "I'm sorry for dumping all the parenting on you when work got tough. Are the child support payments enough? Should I increase them?" "I don't mind. You know." "No, that's okay. Actually, I hadn't touched the child support. I was thinking of adding it to her future education fund." "Are you still with the same company?" Jessica might have remembered how I struggled at work, became envious of her, and turned to alcohol. "Yes, I am. I tried to throw myself into work after the divorce, but I'm still just a regular employee." "Going to work every day and doing your job, that's amazing in itself. I wanted to apologize to you. Back then, I couldn't understand why you turned to alcohol. Sometimes, I even thought you should try harder. But after breaking down from work myself, I understood the desire to escape. Work feels like a part of life, and when it's tough, it's unbearable. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you, that I didn't listen or support you." I shook my head at Jessica's words. "It's not about the work being tough. It's that comparing myself to someone as capable as you made me feel miserable. It's pathetic, I know. I fell for you because you were so cool and hardworking. I wish I could have been honest with you about how I felt, but my petty pride got in the way." Jessica listened intently to what I had to say. "So you felt that way. I wish I had listened to you back when we were married. Maybe I was too caught up in myself and too quick to dismiss you as weak. No, it was my fault for neglecting our family and turning to alcohol. It wasn't your fault at all. I've always wanted to apologize. I'm truly sorry for back then." After sharing our feelings, we, along with Lily, had dinner together using vegetables from Jessica's garden. Life in the countryside has its perks, but also many challenges. However, Jessica seemed to enjoy even the hardships, sharing her struggles with a smile during our meal. She didn't regret leaving her job in the slightest. I clung to my job so much, but once I let go, it turned out not to be such a big deal after all. I couldn't help but say, "That sounds nice." Picking up on my comment, Lily suggested, "Dad, why don't you come live here too?" Jessica and I exchanged embarrassed glances and could only laugh. After reuniting with Lily and Jessica, I began visiting their home on weekends. However, one day, I received a call from Tom, the farmer Jessica was helping, informing me that Jessica had been injured. I left work early and rushed to Jessica. Apparently, a burglar had entered the house. Fortunately, the injury was just a fracture from being pushed. It was a relief that it wasn't more serious. Neighbors had quickly come to help, and the burglar was caught. Jessica felt bad when she realized I had left work early for her. "Sorry, it's not a big deal." No way. Being attacked by a burglar and fracturing a bone. That's serious enough. I used my paid leave to stay at Jessica's house for a while. It was to help with chores and take care of Lily. While it wasn't good that Jessica got injured, the days spent together from morning till night were enjoyable. I even tried my hand at farming in Jessica's place, but it was much harder work than I expected. I was laughed at by Jessica and Lily for being sore all over, but seeing their smiles made it feel like a lucky break. When it was time for me to leave, Lily was in tears. "Dad, please don't go." To Lily's tearful plea, I replied, "We'll be together starting next month." "What? Why? Are you coming to stay again?" I smiled at her question. "Actually, I've been thinking of living with Mom and you again. Is that okay?" Despite having been in tears just moments before, Lily's eyes sparkled as she exclaimed, "Really?" and was overjoyed. In fact, I had started dating Jessica again a little while ago. We had also made plans to live together again, and I had informed my company that I would be resigning in 2 months. But after the burglary incident, concerned about the safety of 2 women living alone, I asked to move my resignation forward. I'll only return to the company for handover purposes, planning to start my new life with Jessica and Lily next month. I've also been visiting agricultural cooperatives and other farmers on weekends to arrange for income opportunities in the area. Though we had planned to surprise Lily, her tears changed our plans. Though it wasn't a surprise anymore, Lily's joy made everything worthwhile. Half a year later, Jessica and I remarried, and the 3 of us are living together as a family. We don't have the same income as during my corporate days, and there's no convenience store nearby. It might seem inconvenient, but we're happy to enjoy the simplicity and have the mental space to appreciate it. The most valuable thing is having meals together as a family and sharing our daily experiences. Jessica and I often talk about our relationship as a couple, knowing each other's weaknesses well by now, and have decided to openly discuss anything and find solutions together. In terms of farming, Jessica is the senior. I'm learning from her, hoping to gain as much knowledge as she has. The days of feeling inferior and being bound by petty pride seem like a distant memory now. Since the bonds of our family, which I thought were irreparably broken, have been reconnected, I am determined to cherish my family more than ever this time. It's embarrassing to have a poor janitor like you as a father, so don't you dare come to my wedding. I was overjoyed when my stepdaughter, whom I had for marriage, got engaged. Yet, I never imagined such a thing would happen. Phew, doesn't it look nice and clean now? My name is Jason. I work as a janitor. I started this job right after graduating from middle school. Growing up in a poor family, I chose to work right after middle school, eager to support my family. My parents were initially opposed, telling me they wanted me to go to high school, but I managed to convince them. "Jason, good job. You've been working diligently since you joined, always full of energy. I was just a clueless kid when I started here. I have to work hard in return. The cleaning company I work for is known for its meticulous work and is fairly profitable. It took some courage for someone like me, with just a middle school education, to dive into this. But the senior employees were all friendly and kind, treating me as a full-fledged member of the workforce. The people at this company, who accept me warmly without any prejudice about my educational background, are all benefactors to me. After 20 years with the company, now 35, I've become somewhat of a veteran, mentoring many younger colleagues. It's been quite some time since you started working here. Seeing your work ethic, the younger ones are growing up well, which is a big help. I'm just teaching them the work as usual. Their growth is all thanks to their own efforts. I truly believe that, not out of modesty. Thankfully, the young ones I've looked after were all straightforward and honest, so they weren't much trouble. Of course, I'm still keen to work as hard as ever, not wanting to be outdone by the younger generation. By the way, you're at the age where you could be thinking about marriage. Any prospects? President Smith teased me. Having focused solely on work, I hadn't had any special encounters with women and had never dated anyone. Given my financial status, I doubted anyone would be interested in me, so the idea of remaining single for life seemed quite liberating, in a way. Then, one day, I got back in touch with an old friend and we decided to go out for drinks. Jason, you're still not married. All the guys we hang out with in middle school have kids now. It seems I'm just not meant for that kind of encounter. While we were talking, my friend offered to introduce me to a woman he knew. I felt it was unnecessary, but I didn't want to dismiss his kindness. So, I agreed to meet the woman my friend suggested. A few days later, I was waiting for my friends at the meeting spot, ready to dine with the woman. Hey, Jason. Hearing my friend's call, I turned around to see a beautiful woman approaching with him. Where in the world did this guy meet such a beauty? I thought to myself as I greeted her. Her name was Lily, and she was our age. She was a high school classmate of my friend. Lily was a single mother with a daughter in middle school. As someone who rarely had the chance to dine out with women privately, I was initially nervous, but the conversation flowed more easily than expected, given we were of the same generation. Then, my friend began to boast about me as if I were his own achievement. This guy is actually quite good at cooking. Really, I respect men who can cook. Having grown up in a household where both parents worked, I often helped with chores when they were busy. So I've been good at cooking from a young age. I'm not very good at cooking myself. I'd be happy if you could teach me sometime. Does this mean she wants to meet again? Surprised but pleased by her positive response, I was thrilled at the prospect of getting closer to such a beautiful woman. Our conversation continued to flow, and by the end of the evening, we had exchanged contact information. A few days later, just as we had discussed over dinner, she contacted me wanting to learn how to cook. We were able to quickly arrange a meeting, as she had kept her schedule open to match my day off. I never expected she would actually come to my house. As we prepared the meal, I taught her how to cook. Lily, despite claiming she wasn't good at cooking, caught on quite quickly. She was delighted with the dishes I made, praising how delicious they were. It would be so nice to be married to someone like you. Life would surely be enjoyable every day. If you say things like that, I might just take you seriously, I thought. While thinking such thoughts, I became curious about why someone like her had gotten divorced and decided to ask. She looked down and was silent for a while. Sorry, if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to. No, it's okay. Lily then shared the story of her divorce. It started with harassment from her ex-husband. Apparently, he was the type who couldn't stand it if things didn't go his way, and he constantly nagged her about the smallest things. Their personalities clashed, leading to the divorce. My daughter got along well with her father, but I just couldn't handle it anymore. It's understandable to get fed up when faced with constant nagging every day. Continuing to endure such a situation would only have caused her mental distress. Choosing to divorce was probably the best decision for her. If it were me, I would never make you go through such hardship. Surprised by my words, Lily showed a startled expression. Realizing what I had just blurted out, I became aware of my slip. Oh no, that was just, I frantically searched for an excuse, but couldn't come up with a proper response. However, Lily chuckled and said, Jason, you're funny. So, would you make me happy then? What did she mean by that? At least, it seemed she didn't have a bad impression of me. Thanks to that exchange, we gradually grew closer. After a while, we began dating. I was ecstatic to have a girlfriend for the first time in my life. This led to playful teasing from my coworkers. Lily and I continued our relationship smoothly. Especially since she really enjoyed my cooking, she would often request it. "Your cooking is delicious too, so I think you should try making different dishes yourself. But I still can match up to you. Emma really loves your cooking and always seems so happy eating it." According to Lily, her daughter Emma always looked pleased eating my cooking. Though I had met Emma a few times, given her adolescent age, we had struggled to connect. Knowing she enjoyed my cooking made me feel good. After all, if Lily and I were to marry, Emma would become my daughter. If this could be a stepping stone to building a good relationship, nothing could be better. I learned Emma's preferences from Lily and practiced making dishes she would like. When I actually made them and gave them to Lily to take home, Emma was thrilled. I heard from her. As a kid, it was tough on the days when I couldn't eat my mom's cooking, but now I'm glad I went through that, I thought. Reflecting on this, I felt grateful for my past circumstances for the first time. After continuing our smooth relationship, Lily and I got married, and I became Emma's father. There was some awkwardness in becoming her new father, but we were gradually able to communicate somehow. Lily had told me that it's difficult with adolescence, and I tried to accept Emma as she was without rushing. Years passed, and Emma, now an adult, said she had something important to tell me. "I've found someone I want to marry." Emma brought joy not only to herself but also to us. Her partner is the son of a company president, so it seems she won't have to worry about financial hardships. Emma happily showed us a photo of her fiancé. Though I've been her father for a few years now, there's an inevitable feeling of loneliness, but it's a happy occasion nonetheless. I reassured myself to wholeheartedly support her. "That's wonderful, Emma. Congratulations. I'm looking forward to the wedding," I said, excited at the thought of seeing her in a bridal gown. However, Emma's next words shattered my expectations. "What are you talking about? There's no way I'd invite someone like you to my wedding." For a moment, my mind went blank, unable to comprehend what I had just heard. But seeing the look of disgust on Emma's face, I couldn't help but understand that her words were rejection. "What do you mean, Emma? It's embarrassing to have a poor janitor like you for a father." Her unexpected statement left me bewildered. She added more shock by saying she would invite her real father to the wedding instead. Her real father, meaning Lily's ex-husband, from whom she had divorced. Why would his name come up now? As I struggled to make sense of it all, Emma explained, "My real dad isn't poor like you, and I wouldn't be embarrassed to have him at the wedding." It turned out that Emma had been meeting with her biological father even after Lily and I got married. Lily then spoke up, seemingly aware of these meetings. "It's not a problem, right? It's fine for Emma to meet whoever she wants." It seems that Lily was aware of Emma meeting with her biological father. Indeed, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. However, Emma had told me she had never met her biological father. "Why did you feel the need to lie about that? Because if you found out and it led to you and Mom divorcing, who would cook for us every day?" Her unexpected response left me speechless. Was she implying that she lied to me just for that reason? Did I mistakenly think of us as a family when, to Emma, I was nothing more than a cook? As I stood dumbfounded, Lily delivered another blow. "Your value is just that, isn't it? I married you because you can cook." That was a truth I couldn't bear to accept. Digging deeper, I learned that they were never in financial trouble due to the divorce settlement. Apparently, Lily was just looking for a temporary replacement for her ex-husband's cooking skills. "You were just a stopgap until I found a better man." Realizing that my happy life was a facade was a harsh truth to face. Feeling used and pathetic for being taken advantage of, I was at a loss for words. "Just make sure you don't show your face at the wedding. I've already discussed it with my father," Emma insisted. "All right, I got it. I'll just stay home as you wish." To be honest, I'm not convinced, and the shock is just too much. But if everything is already decided, there's probably nothing I can do about it now. In the end, I had no choice but to reluctantly accept the situation. On the day of the wedding, I took a day off as instructed and stayed at home, just as Emma had told me to. Then, my phone rang with a call from Lily. Why is she calling now, during the wedding? Reluctantly answering, I heard Lily's frantic voice on the other end. Please, come to the wedding right now. Oh, what are you talking about all of a sudden? I couldn't understand why, after being explicitly told not to attend the wedding, I was now being asked to come at the last minute. Upon inquiring further, I learned that the groom and his family were quite upset about my absence from the ceremony. Admittedly, I had anticipated this reaction. The groom, a scion I was familiar with, turned out to be the son of President Abel, whose company I regularly serviced as a janitor. I recognized him immediately when Emma showed me his photo, thanks to our prior acquaintance. President Abel had always appreciated my meticulous cleaning work, and his son had been kind to me as well. I had even greeted them before, letting them know Emma would be under their care. Naturally, they must have expected to meet me at the wedding, but instead, they were confronted by a stranger claiming to be the father. It was only logical for them to be confused by the situation. Apparently, both Lily and Emma were questioned extensively about their treatment of me, leading them to reveal everything that had happened. If you don't come, they said they'd consider the marriage null and void, and Emma has started crying. I'm sorry, but I won't be going. After all, I'm nothing more than a cuck to you too. Plus, it was you who told me not to come in the first place, wasn't it? Upon hearing my response, Lily, perhaps panicking, began to frantically make excuses. Regardless, I had no intention of heading to the wedding at this point. Also, I've decided to leave this house today. I have no intention of living with you two as just a cook. Indeed, I had taken the day off to move out of the house. I no longer felt any familial affection for Lily or Emma and had no desire to continue living with them. Wait a minute, that's just too selfish. I'd say the same to you both, I retorted before hanging up. Lily called several more times after that, but I ignored them all and left the house. As a result of this ordeal, Emma's marriage was apparently called off. Later, President Abel informed me of everything. I apologized repeatedly for causing trouble involving him and his son, but he actually thanked me. He expressed gratitude for preventing his son from marrying someone so deceitful, leaving me with mixed feelings about whether to be happy or not. Lily and Emma, exposed for their treatment towards me, were nearly ostracized by their family and acquaintances. They have since moved to a different town, trying to make a fresh start. While I support their efforts to change, I doubt I'll ever be involved with them again. What was my marriage all about? Even if it was a false happiness, the realization that I could have continued living blissfully unaware makes me feel miserable. But dwelling on the past won't change it. I remind myself that it's all in the past and focus on moving forward with a fresh start. Since then, I've dedicated myself even more to my work. One day, President Abel called me in for a meeting that would become a turning point in my life. Jason, your work ethic and character are impeccable. Though it's a different industry, would you consider working for us as an employee? President Abel personally offered me a position, appreciating my personality. While I felt a sense of duty to my current employer, the prospect of a better income was crucial for my future. After much deliberation and discussion with President Smith of my current company, I accepted the offer. My departure was deeply regretted, but I was sent off with smiles in the end. Adjusting to the new job was challenging at first, but with support from President Abel and colleagues, I gradually became accustomed to the work. Over time, I significantly improved my performance and received a substantial salary increase. Years after the transition, I became responsible for training newcomers. Jason, I look forward to working with you. Likewise, I know you might be nervous, but let's take it easy and not stress too much. The new employee, a sincere and diligent woman. She immediately gained my respect for her hard work and made me want to support her even more. When she achieved her first success at work, we went out for drinks to celebrate. You did a great job this time. It's because you were always there to support me, Jason. I'm really grateful that you were assigned as my mentor, she said with a smile that I couldn't help but find endearing. Over time, we built a trustful relationship and eventually started hanging out in our private time as well. I found her innocent laughter and joy outside of work to be incredibly endearing, contrasting her serious work demeanor. Eventually, I confessed my feelings to her. Considering the significant age difference between us, I was well into my 40s, and she was still in her 20s. I was prepared for rejection. Contrary to my expectations, she responded to my feelings with tears, accepting them. It seemed that she had also developed feelings for me as we spent time together. Thus, we officially started dating. After a workplace romance, we eventually got married and were blessed with children, building a happy family. Looking back on my life, I've experienced both good and bad times. However, I believe that by always looking forward and diligently working hard, I was able to achieve the happiness I have now. When my life with Lily and Emma fell apart in such a manner, I couldn't have imagined a happy future like the one I have now. But looking back, I'm proud of myself for not giving up and for staying strong through those tough times. To protect this happy life I have with my family, I'll continue to move forward every day.